When I think about doing theory videos over the last few months, since lockdown really, I've struggled to find a game that I really want to explore and go in depth on. You know, we had the Sally Face videos that done really well, that you guys really enjoyed, had the Little Misfortune videos and Frambo as well. But when I want to write, I really want to be as immersed and engaged in that game and in that series as possible. And whenever I think about writing a theory, at least at the moment, the game I keep coming back to is the Faith series, the Unholy Trinity. Currently, chapters 1 and 2 have released, with a demo for chapter 3 also out on Steam, produced by indie developer Airdorf. I was enamoured when I first started playing this game. Its use of the retro Atari era style graphics, coupled with the deeply unsettling soundtrack and voice effects.
Do you think my face is pretty? I have to finish what I started. She's my priest.
Made it perfect for the 1980s story setting of the real life satanic scare in the US of the same time, for which paranoia about devil worshipping, witchcraft and occult practices were all too prominent. The use of strange satanic symbols, unsettling imagery and some good game mechanics really made this game stand out for me, with subsequent chapters going even further in terms of creative game mechanics to keep things fresh. With the full 3 chapters set to release this year, I want to explore Faith chapters 1 and 2 and the demo for 3 and explore what we know so far, what we can theorise about at this time, and what we might expect when the full game is out. This video will discuss chapter 1 specifically and explain just what happened on that fateful night. Firstly, for those of you that haven't watched Faith or played Faith, I would really encourage you to go and play it. You can download it on Steam or get the first 2 chapters on itch.io, or watch my playthrough of the first 3 here. But what is this indie retro horror series even about? Well, it all started on
September 21st, 1987.
when 2 priests, Father Allred and our protagonist, John Ward in blue, travelled to rural Connecticut to investigate a case of demonic possession. Amy Martin, a 17-year-old girl who lived with her parents and twin brothers, Nate and Jason, was the one who they came to perform the exorcism on. Unfortunately, after trying and failing, Father Allred died after being strangled by Amy in the basement, and John, who was seeing to her parents upstairs, had fled after learning what had happened. This is all prior to the actual gameplay of Faith Chapter 1, but sets up John's return to that house exactly 1 year later after what had happened. The player arrives in the woods near the house and, armed with only his cross, begins to make his journey through the woods, picking up various notes with clues about various bits of lore that help piece together just exactly what is going on in this game. There's a public lecture that highlights the state's historical connections to witchcraft, Satanism and the beast system. One showing a birthday party for Nate and Jason, amongst others which I will come on to. On his way to the house, John is attacked by a strange white spider-looking demon. This creature, seemingly just an enemy, actually has a lot more significance to the game and its lore than I originally thought, as he appears in multiple endings of chapter 1. The creature is actually a demon who possessed a child named Michael Davies and was in the care of another priest, Father Garcia, who we play as in the prologue of chapter 2. This prologue shows Father Garcia with Michael tied up in his home after months of trying to exorcise the demon inside him, to no avail. With the player trying one final time, unfortunately Michael escapes and flees into the woods surrounding the Martin house and proceeds to attack John, as we see in chapter 1. Father Garcia is also seen numerous times in Faith chapter 1 as a grey figure who, if you kill at the end of the game, you see Michael in the back seat of John's car as he kills him, and you receive the father and son ending.
I shall not be afraid.
Though this is not the canonical ending, which I will go on to later, this is proven by seeing Father Garcia later in chapter 2. Upon reaching the house after picking up the key in the shed, John makes his way to the basement reading more notes found in various items, some from Mrs. Martin and some from John that he wrote when the original exorcism took place. Upon returning to the basement where Father Allred was murdered, Amy, possessed by the demon, emerges, and only after defeating her does the attic door unlock and we do battle on a satanic pentagram, after which the demon jumps out of the attic window back into the woods. This is when a gun appears, and with writing in blood on the foyer floor telling us to kill her. Before we run through the multiple endings, let's just explore a secret boss battle that I managed to do, because that also highlights something else that we did not know about John after what happened in September 21st, 1986. So if you take the gun and shoot the mirror where there was seemingly a ghost behind John on the other side, if you shoot that mirror 3 times, you can then walk in and you have a secret boss battle with some sort of demon in some weird reality. Not sure what it means, but when you beat the demon, you get this note. December 30th, 1986. Dear Dr. McGlasson, it has been 30 days since the beginning of my treatment here at Yale Psychiatric Institute. Dr. Spinal, who has been so patient with me, has helped me understand my afflictions and has helped me find a way to move forward and accept the truth. With Dr. Spinal's help, I have come to accept what really happened in September at the Martin family residence. I accept that what happened was not the result of any supernatural phenomenon, but rather the desperate actions of a young girl driven to violence by her dogmatic parents and old church rituals that are thought to drive out evil. I am happy to report, since accepting the truth, my nightmares have ceased, and I now enjoy peace of mind that I have not felt since the incident. Given my progress since first coming here, I respectfully request my release from Yale Psychiatric Institute, contingent upon follow-up appointments with Dr. Spinal in the future. Sincerely, John Ward. So this note tells us that John was admitted. He either admitted himself or the police or whoever admitted John after what had happened that night when Father Allred died. And what seemingly happened in there is, I get the impression that John is trying to make sure that he gets out, because naturally if he believed everything he just said and that it wasn't all real, there was no supernatural activity, we wouldn't be playing Faith Chapter 1, he wouldn't have gone back to finish what he started. Interestingly, in Chapter 2 there is a note that relates to John being in the psychiatric ward in Yale that just states that the new patient initial consultation, John Thomas Ward. So yeah, after the initial exorcism, the failed exorcism of Amy Martin, Father Allred died. John was put into a psychiatric ward for like 3 months, I think. Dr. James Spinal, non-responsive for first half hour, followed by fragmented exorcism narrative. Subject unable to maintain consistency in story. For example, stating that Amy was in the basement and then saying she was in the attic. The subject insists the incident was the result of demonic possession. Cannot declare subject of sound mind, or require several more sessions to fully understand the subject's mental state. Will advise Martin family attorneys. So this just tells us that John was in a very bad way naturally after what had happened to Father Allred. And it took John only a couple of months to get his head together and decide, I need to get out of here because I need to go back. Or at least maybe he just went back because it was a full year before he returned, right? So he went back, it was December when he seemingly said he was okay and ready to leave. So there was a time between sort of January and September of 1987 where John was doing something, whether he was still investigating what happened or maybe he was trying to get his life back to normal, but one way or another he felt like he had to return to help Amy. I think it was a case of helping her. But now let's run through the multiple endings and their meaning within the game. Even though there is only one true ending, you can still gain information from the other endings. Now the ending mentioned previously, in which you take the cigarette looking gun out into the woods and shoot that grey figure who would run off if you let him, is the father and son ending, in which after shooting the grey figure, which we know from chapter 2's prologue is actually Father Garcia, and we return to our car, we find that Michael attacks and kills us. Ending 1, which is the murderer ending, in which we go out and do what the ketchup on the floor in the house tells us to do, is to go find Amy, who is possessed by the demon and currently wounded. We then shoot her. John returns to his car before being stopped by the police, who arrest him for the murder of Amy. And a note in the arrest report states that John was actually not an ordained minister after all, despite what you initially would think based on his appearance. Now this is actually a very unclear aspect of our protagonist, and it's not exactly specified if John ever was a minister or not. Was he pretending? Was he originally an ordained priest and was removed, and the powers that be didn't want anyone to know that he was a part of, you know, their faith? Because there are some notes that contradict each other in terms of throughout the chapters about John and the fact that he is an ordained minister, or he was and then he wasn't, or he was pretending to be one. Suffice to say that there is something not quite right about what John's role is in the church. This ending, however, is also not the canonical ending. This is proven when Amy makes a brief appearance in chapter 2's demo, highlighting that the demon possessing her is very much alive. But how exactly did Amy become possessed in the first place? There are a few notes in particular that give us an idea about potentially how Amy ended up in the position she did. Her reply from a missionary who talks of the religion of Kimbamba and how they worship San La Muerte, or Saint Death, provides one theory, as they briefly talk about how things move around in the house and some supernatural stuff starts happening. So that seemingly could be like a red herring, because I don't see how that necessarily relates to what I'm going to come on to now, which is ending 3, which is the offering ending of the game, which provides the reality of how Amy ended up in this situation. So in the offering ending, the player discovers what appears to be some kind of corpse in the woods. It just looked like blood on the floor to me, but it's apparently a corpse surrounded by rocks. So if you shoot that and then return to the car, John will drive away, and soon, however, you notice figures cloaked in red appearing in the background, and John is stopped by the red figures. This confirms for me that there is a cult who is involved in all this. Again, whilst not canon, provides a very interesting note from a man named Gary. It reads as follows. Hello, Amy. I'm sorry to hear about your parents' decision. It is hard for people to trust what they do not understand. I know you are only 17, but you are clearly an adult and you are able to handle your own life. Do not let your mum and dad stop you from following your dreams. If there is anything I can do to help you, just let me know. We are having a get-together at the clinic Saturday night, and I would love for you to stop by. We still consider you a part of the team, even if your mum and dad do not. We hope to see you there. Gary. Gary is a name that pops up a lot in Chapter 2 and Chapter 3's demo, and he is seemingly the cult leader who is trying to bring these demons to life through the various rituals of his cult. From the letter, he may have also worked in some form at the abortion clinic with Amy. There is also a note that only appears in the Game Jolt edition of Faith, or so the wiki says, that is from Mrs. Martin, who was informed that a man was talking to one of her twins, so Nate or Jason, away from the others at the party. Now, this is just speculation at this time, but this could well have been Gary, as a note in the canonical ending of Chapter 2 mentioned the twins were to be used to summon a demon. It was from Father Garcia at the end, and it read, John, we don't have much time. The profane Sabbath is almost upon us. If they find Nate and Jason, they will perform a ritual on them to call forth a demon of unspeakable power. The name of the demon is Malthus. I am in the process of discovering their whereabouts and I will contact you again soon. We must not let them do to the boys what they did to Amy. Father Garcia. That confirms to us that they are going to use the two twins wherever they are now, because remember the parents both died. Amy is possessed and still part of the cult, it seems. So where are the boys now? I don't know who's in their care. There's also the hunter ending, where if you shoot a deer, his friends return the favour in style. They're not really relevant to the plot, but just adds to the whole setting of the beasts in nature and just weird stuffs in general. I just think it's quite cool. It's a nifty little extra ending. The true canonical ending of Faith Chapter 1, however, is ending 5, When Faith Endures. And I was actually a little surprised when I learned this, given the intrigue and how much the other ones I thought were really quite cool, like shooting Amy and the cult, the offering ending as well. I thought those were really cool endings. But in any case, to get this ending, you have to keep the gun and return to the car before seeing Michael leap out at you. Shooting him will see him stagger onto the road before being hit by a truck and die. Cool little Easter egg on the truck is Airdorf, which is the indie developer for this game, so that's quite cool. And by process of elimination we can work out that this is the true canonical ending. So if ending 1 took place, we wouldn't see Amy in chapter 2, although I will caveat this by saying that there is an argument that chapter 2 is all a nightmare and potentially it didn't all happen, but we'll get onto that in its own video. So if ending 2 took place, we wouldn't see Father Garcia again, as he would die, and we also may have seen Michael still running around the place in chapter 2. If ending 3 took place, then it's fair to assume John would either have been inducted into the cult, which would not play into the events of chapter 2 and particularly chapter 3's demo, or they would have killed him so we wouldn't have seen him anyway. If ending 4 was canon, that's just kind of lame, I think. Which leaves ending 5, When Faith Endures. I think also there's sort of an audio cue almost with the music from ending 5 is slightly sort of higher and slightly more upbeat, which gives me the impression that that is the true ending. I don't know if that's just me, I might need to listen out for it.
I can't explain what happened at that house. I can only have faith that I did the right deed.
So this sums up chapter 1 nicely, and I will likely refer back to chapter 1 in the subsequent videos. However, I'll wrap this up as I don't want these to be too long. I just wanted to examine the relevant lore from the game and what relates to the main plot, despite there being multiple endings potentially telling us one thing, and that ending not being canonical. But as I said before, I think it's fair to be able to take certain notes and information from events that technically don't take place and use them to work out the rest of the plot. Like the offering ending, you receive Gary's note to Amy, which I think that the note is a genuine part of the plot, but what happened to John in that ending is not part of the plot. Does that make sense? Okay, I hope it does. In any case, let me know what you think of my chapter 1 explanation on faith, and look forward to chapter 2, as there's a lot more to unpack in chapter 2. There's a lot to go through. I hope you guys did enjoy this theory. I hope you are looking forward, because I'm trying to do more theory stuff. As I said before, I need to be really engaged and super into the game. I know it must sound frustrating if you guys actually like my theory videos. That's just how I am at the moment anyway. But yeah, I'm going to try and get into doing more theory stuff. Let me know if you want me to go maybe into some more sort of mainstream like games for the theories, because like I love doing the indie games in particular, because there's less of those sort of discussion videos around those, which I like, you know. But you know, if you want me to go into things like, I don't know, like some Nintendo stuff like Zelda and Splatoon and things like that. I can definitely look into stuff like that, because there is a lot of games that I'm heavily into, like the Resident Evil series. Like, I did a whole script, I've still got it, for Resident Evil 4. I didn't post it out because I wasn't sure about it, but if you guys want to see that, let me know. Anyway, I'm going to wrap this up. Thank you guys so much for watching, and remember,
I have to finish what I started.